And so this right here is a radical equation. And the reason it's radical is because there's a radical in the problem. And the reason it's an equation is because there's an equal sign, right? Now this is probably the hardest type radical equation you'll have to do. Okay, so our first step to do this is going to be to get rid of this radical right here, this square root. Do y'all see this square root? I want to get rid of that. So the opposite of square root is to square both sides like this. And so I've got x squared equals, and when I square a square root, so in other words, I'm squaring this square root, what happens to all that? It goes away, doesn't it? And so all that's left is what's under the radical, the x plus 6. And now what do you notice? This is a second degree polynomial. If we want to solve this equation, we have to do it one of the 4 ways over there on the board. We got to do it by graphing. We've got to do it by factoring. We got to do it by completing the square, or we got to use the quadratic formula. Okay, so let's get everything on the left side of the equal sign. So let's move this x to the left, and let's move this 6 to the left. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract x, and I'm going to subtract 6 on both sides. Subtract x and subtract 6 on both sides. And so that gives me x squared minus x minus 6 equals 0. Right? And so all this right here is a quadratic equation. Say it.
Quadratic equation.
And like we said, we've got 4 ways to solve a quadratic equation. Okay, which way would y'all like to use to solve it? I'll give you 2 choices. Complete the square or quadratic formula.
Quadratic formula.
All right, so let's do the quadratic formula. So the first step in doing the quadratic formula is to identify A, B, and C. So A equals 1, B equals -1, and C equals -6. And so now step 2 in solving using the quadratic formula is to write the formula. So I have x equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. Okay, and so now what I need to do is I need to plug a, b, and c into the formula and solve, don't I? Okay, so let's do that. And so I've got x equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. And so now I just need to simplify this, don't I? And so -1 squared is 1. What is -4 times 1 times -6? So I've got x equals 1 plus or minus the square root of 1. And then what is -4 times 1 times -6? So since it's positive 24, do I put a plus 24 or a minus 24? Plus 24 all over 2, right? What is 24 plus 1?
25.
And we know that the square root of 25 is 5. So I've got x equals 1 plus or minus 5 all divided by 2. Notice that I put the division sign all under everything. I didn't just put it under the radical right here. I put it under the whole problem, didn't I? And so now we just need to split it into 2 problems, don't we? And so I've got x equals 1 plus 5 divided by 2, and x equals 1 minus 5 divided by 2. What is 1 plus 5?
6.
And so this is 6 over 2, which is?
3.
X equals 3. There's one answer. And then 1 minus 5 is -4 over 2, which is? -2. So there's my 2 answers. But now remember, when we have a radical equation, there is a chance we will get a what? So anytime we have a radical equation, there is a chance we will get a what?
Extraneous solution.
An extraneous solution. Okay, so remember what I told you. Guys, listen. I told y'all, I said, when we have a radical equation, which our original equation was x equals the square root of x plus 6. I told y'all, I said, when we have a radical equation like this, where there's an equal sign and a radical in the problem, there's a chance that the solution we get won't work. And that's what's extraneous. So we got 3 and negative 2, right? So let's go ahead and plug 3 into the equation. So that'll be 3 equals the square root of 3 plus 6, right? What is 3 plus 6? So the question is, does 3 equal the square root of 9? Well, what is the square root of 9?
3.
So 3 does equal 3, doesn't it?
Yes.
So 3 works. 3 is a good solution. Now we need to go check and see if negative 2 works, don't we? So I'm going to write the equation x equals the square root of, and what was it, x plus 6? And now instead of plugging 3 in, okay, because I got right here 3 and negative 2, 3 worked, didn't it? Now we need to see if what works. Okay, so let's go plug negative 2 in. And so I've got negative 2 must equal the square root of negative 2 plus 6. What is negative 2 plus 6? 4. So negative 2 must equal whatever the square root of 4 is. Well, the square root of 4 is 2, isn't it? Does 2 equal negative 2? No, so this didn't work. And so x equals negative 2 is an extraneous solution. Say it.
Extraneous solution.
And so right here, this x equals 3, this is a good solution, isn't it? But x equals negative 2 is an extraneous solution, which means it's not one of the answers. It just happened to come as an answer, but whenever we have radical equations, there's going to be extra solutions every once in a while, aren't there? And that's one of them. So we don't count this as part of our answer.